Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about 25 words and their meaning starting with the letter A. Abase. To abase something or someone is to humiliate them, no, more than just humiliate them. If you abase another person, you are bringing them low, humbling them in a mean, base manner. Not nice at all. Aberration. The noun aberration often refers to something that doesn't fit with current moral standards or is something that shows a mental lack of control. Aberration comes from the Latin word that means to wander, go astray. Abhor. If you abhor something, it gives you a feeling of complete hatred. Chances are you abhor that kid who used to torture the frogs in biology class. Abject. The pronunciation of abject is up for debate. You can decide whether to stress the first or the second syllable. But what's more important is understanding how extreme this adjective is. Abject means absolutely miserable, the most unfortunate, with utter humiliation. You might have heard the phrase abject poverty, which is the absolute worst, most hopeless level of poverty you've ever seen. Abrasive. The history of the word abrasive illustrates how a word typically enters the English language and then changes with time. The English verb abrade, to wear down by scraping, entered the language from Latin abradere, to scrape off, in the late 1600s. Some 200 years later, the adjective form of the word abrasive came into use to describe a type of grinding tool. By the 1920s, abrasive had acquired the more figurative sense of annoying and infuriating. If you find someone abrasive, he or she grinds away at your nerves. Abstain. Roots of the word abstain are from the 14th century French, to withhold oneself, and the word often refers to people who hold themselves back from indulging in habits that are bad for them. If you abstain from something, you restrain yourself from consuming it. Abstract. Abstract is from a Latin word meaning pulled away, detached, and the basic idea is of something detached from physical or concrete reality. It is frequently used of ideas, meaning that they don't have a clear applicability to real life. Abundant. Something that exists in large amounts that are more than what's needed. Near synonyms are plentiful, emphasizing large amounts, and ample, emphasizing more than enough. Accentuate. When you accentuate, you draw attention to something. You could wear a green shirt to accentuate your green eyes, for example. You can also accentuate words when you give them added stress. An actor might accentuate certain words in a monologue in order to emphasize the character's anger. Acclimate. When you acclimate yourself to a situation, you become used to it. It usually means getting accustomed to a particular new climate, but it can also mean getting used to other situations, such as a new school, new place. Accomplice. An accomplice is a cooperator or participator, commonly in criminal acts. So you're an accomplice to the gas station robbery if you distracted the store manager while your partner in crime raided the registers for cash. Accord. An accord is an agreement between groups or even nations, like a formal peace accord that prevents war, or the accord between you and your sister specifying who gets to use the car on which days. Acerbic. If you say something acerbic or harshly bitter to someone, it can leave a bitter taste in your own mouth that lingers, and the acerbic or acidic words can eat away at the person on the receiving end too. Acme. When something is at the very peak of perfection, reach for this noun from Greek, acme. A brilliant violinist might reach the acme of her career, but eventually she might become unstrung. Acquiesce. To acquiesce is to agree to something or to give in. If your kid's sister is refusing to hand over the television remote, you hope she acquiesces before your favorite show comes on. Acquit. To acquit someone is to clear them of charges. Acquitting also has to do with how you carry or present yourself. Acrimonious. Locked in a mean-spirited, bitter argument? That's an acrimonious situation that might result in fists flying unless you and your opponent can cool down. Acute. The word acute is one word. It's not two words, nor does it have anything to do with something small, cuddly, and pretty. Acute really means sharp or severe or intense and modifies certain kinds of angles in geometry or describes a certain kind of illness of short duration. The English word apparently entered the language during the 16th century from the Latin root acutus, which means sharp or pointed. Adamant. If you stubbornly refuse to change your mind about something, you are adamant about it. Adept. Are you looking for another word to describe a person who is highly skilled? An adept person today cannot turn lead into gold. The adjective is still high praise, meaning skilled, expert, highly proficient. Adhere. Things that are sticky will adhere or attach to surfaces and stay there, whether you want them to or not. In other words, they're adhesive, an adjective that comes from the same Latin source as the French verb. When a person chooses to adhere to something, it is more of a choice to stick with it or agree to abide by rules or guidelines. Admonish. To admonish is to scold. If you want to show someone you're not happy with his behavior, admonish him. The exact meaning of this formal verb varies in intensity depending generally on who is being corrected. If a child or subordinate is being admonished, it means scold or rebuke, whereas if someone admonishes a person with equal standing, warn or advise are closer synonyms. Adorn. To adorn is to dress something up by decorating it. Adorn shares some Latin roots with words like ornament and ornate. So it makes sense that some people adorn their Christmas trees with tinsel and lights. Others adorn their eyelids with glitter. Adroit. Someone who is adroit is clever and skillful. An adroit leader will be able to persuade people to go with his ideas. Adulation. If you've ever been to a pop concert filled with screaming fans, you've probably been exposed to adulation, praise so over the top it's almost embarrassing.